This is the Sony PCM-D50 audio recorder. As you can see, it's a little bit bigger than the size of your average hand, but it's a pretty good size to hold in your hand if you want to either use it with the built-in microphones that you can use to mic the person that you're going to be interviewing, or you can plug in easily an external microphone into the mini microphone jack. Now, one of the things that a lot of people had been concerned about is that this is a relatively expensive recorder at $500, but it doesn't have the larger XLR-style microphone input. But this is a pretty sturdy mini input, I have to say. Most of them tend to be sort of cheap plastic, and they're one of the first things that break on lower-end recorders. But in this case, it's metal, and you get a nice solid feel when you put something in. Another thing that's nice here is that when you insert, automatically will ask if you want plug-in power or not. This is not phantom power. It's not the full 48-volt phantom power, but it works with some small microphones that require plug-in power, and you can just hit the play enter button to say no. So if you're actually recording using the internal microphones and you plug in an external microphone, it will automatically switch. You don't have to fumble with a lot of menus like you do in other recorders. So it's pretty convenient and easy to use. As you can see, the buttons are fairly large, and you get the buttons that you would expect: the stop, the record, the pause, play, fast forward, and rewind. It takes a moment or two to get used to the fast forward and rewind are the back and forth button when you're using the built-in menus, and play is enter. So there's a couple of minutes when you first get it when you might have a difficult time figuring out how to navigate the more complex menus, which are reachable by pressing and holding the menu button. So if we take a look at those menus, though, you have your record mode, where you can change between 22 kilohertz all the way up to 96 kilohertz, and 16-bit or 24-bit. I usually record at 44.1 kilohertz, 16-bit, and with that you get about 6.5 hours record time using the built-in 4 gigabytes of memory. There's a limiter, which you can set to 150 milliseconds, 1 second, or 1 minute recovery time. And what that means is, essentially, if a noise is too loud, it'll switch to a lower track. And it's always recording two signals. It's always monitoring two signals. One is about 20 dB lower than the other. So if, for example, you make a very loud noise in front of the microphone, then it'll actually switch to the lower one if the limiter is on, and then switch back. I find that the result is a little bit jarring, and so I'm probably not going to use the limiter very often. There's also a low-cut filter, which you can use at 75 hertz or 150 hertz, which will help eliminate some bassy, boomy sounds, a little bit of wind noise, but it really won't get rid of as much wind noise as you would probably like. There's a pre-record buffer, which is very nice. When you hit the record button, it'll start recording in sort of pause mode, and when the pre-record buffer is on, it'll actually keep a 5-second buffer, meaning when you hit pause to start recording, it'll start the actual wave file creation 5 seconds from before you hit the pause button. So if you're in a situation where you want to sort of monitor the recording but not fill up the card by recording all the time, this can come in handy. Sync record, plug-in power, LED, change the clock. Choose whether you want to use the 4 gigs of built-in memory, or if you want to use the memory card slot, which pulls out right about here, where you can put in a Sony memory stick. You can format, you can delete all the data that's on here, or you can delete a single track. And there's a digital pitch control, which is handy if you're a musician and you want to listen to a recording in a little bit slower. So you're playing guitar, you want to go along with it. Digital pitch control will let you listen to it at a slower speed or a faster speed without actually changing the pitch. And the easy search mode, which when you're playing back a recording, you can press and hold the fast forward or rewind button to sort of scan through the recording and find the spot you want. But if you have easy search on, hitting fast forward once will take you forward 10 seconds. Hitting rewind once will take you back 3 seconds. So it's a way to sort of skip through the recordings. I like to keep it off because I'd rather have the fast forward once than the rewind once mean next track and previous track. So we hit menu again and we're back to the starting. So if you hit record, as I mentioned, what it's actually going to do, because it's in the pre-record mode, is it's going to fill up the little 5 bars here. And it's not actually making a recording right now. I have to hit the pause button, and then you'll see that it's recording. You see you've got pretty good VU meters here, though, and there's also these limiters, which that would be, you could turn off the LEDs if you didn't want to see those, but they'll turn red when you're peaking or you're over-modulating. As you can see, there's sort of an orange background. That's actually the backlight, which is lit up right now. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off, so you'll see that it's not always lit up like that. And I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording. Oh, actually, one thing I did mean to show you, though. When you've got a recording going, you can very easily create a new track by dividing the recording, hitting this divide button here. And you get a nice graphic for divide. Now I've got a couple of recordings that I don't need, so I'm going to go in and show you how easy it is to delete one. Delete track, enter, and it's actually playing the track. You can't hear it right now because I don't have the headphones plugged in, but we're going to say, yes, we're sure, and enter, and you get a cute little eraser graphic. Delete the next one, and again, little eraser graphic. Now, one thing, it would be nice if the divide button were over on the left-hand side. I'm assuming that I'm not the only person who's using this who's going to be right-handed, which means I'll probably hold an external microphone in my right hand while holding the unit in my left, and that means that I sort of have to reach over everything to hit the divide button, which is a little inconvenient. Okay, let's show you a few other little tricks here. The record level is a nice solid meter that you can push up and down. It's got this bar to protect it so you don't accidentally bump it. And it does have some weight to it, so you're probably not going to turn it up or down accidentally. On this side, you've got a similar button for your volume control. This is just your playback volume, not your record volume. On the right, you've got your microphone input and your line input. For some reason, the line input is that cheap plastic we were talking about before, as opposed to a nice sturdy metal. And you've got line output and a nice sturdy metal microphone output. There's a USB connector. This is actually a mini USB connector. Mini USB to regular USB cable is supplied. There's your connector for power. Choose between line and microphone input. Choose between 0 and a 20 dB pad for your microphone input. This is for using a remote control to control the basic record, stop, play, pause buttons. The remote control is not included. That's an optional add-on, which will set you back a little bit of extra money. Turn the digital pitch control on and off, and a nice hold button, which if you say start a recording and don't want to accidentally hit another button, press hold and all the buttons will stay locked, so your recording will continue. Let's show you how long it takes to boot up. Accessing memory, it says, and now we're good. So, it's a good 5 seconds or so. So that's one of the reasons why it's nice that it has a long, estimated 14-hour battery life, and you can hit sort of record pause mode and just let it be ready for when you're going to need it, as opposed to turning it on. And on the back of the unit is a switch for the limiter and a switch for the low-cut filter. One thing that's a little bit odd is if you hold the menu button once, you'll get into the files system, so you can see the recordings that you've made. And it's a little bit strange the way that they're organized. When you get the device, it already has 9 folders on it, which when I first loaded it up indicated to me that somebody had already made recordings, that it wasn't a new unit, but that's actually not the case. Instead, it has 9 folders, and each one's capable of holding 99 WAV files. And there's no way to really rename these folders. In fact, if you delete them, you're going to have a hard time recognizing the record path and the playback path. So, make sure not to mess with those folders. But you'll also notice that the recordings start to be made into whatever folder is open at the time. So these were made into folder 4 because that's the one that I was using at the time. Even though there's nothing in folder 1, folder 10, folder 3, they're all empty except for folder 4. So when you connect this to your computer as a external drive and look for your files, you may have to look across several different folders if you're not careful as to which folder you make your recordings in.